Hola amigos de Vino Sin Límites, bienvenidos al episodio de la Madre Tierra. Un episodio muy especial porque hoy tenemos con nosotros y es nuestro anfitrión, el doctor Thomas Boggan, físico. Hey Tom, thank you for having us. How are you?
I'm delighted to be here with you today.
It's our pleasure, and thank you to your lovely wife, Barb, for these delicious appetizers. Look at that. I can't wait
Me
to dig
neither,
in.
but I can't wait for the lovely wines you brought.
Thank you. We are talking today. I want you to tell us a little bit about global warming and climate change.
Climate change is a serious issue that we're all facing. It's because we're putting carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. There is as much carbon dioxide out here that we're breathing today that there was the last time there was this amount was 1 million years ago, which is an awful long time. On the other hand, it's only 400 parts per billion. What is that? That's almost nothing. So small changes in carbon dioxide can have large changes in our planet's ability to get rid of the heat that the sun gives to us. And global warming is that part of the change of our planet where the earth heats up, and in heating up, it affects grapes, it affects our water supply, and it's doing that to try to get the energy back out into space that we're getting from the sun.
Well, that's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Because we can feel the climate change. We see all these fires, the hurricanes, everything happening in different parts of the world. And on a lighter note, we have three wines here today. All these wineries, they try to do something good for the environment. On the first one that we can try is a Sauvignon Blanc from Chile and from the Gran Reserva from Concha y Toro, and it's all about preserving the watersheds. How can you tell me how important it is to preserve the watersheds?
Water is key to our survival on the planet, and under climate change, we're going to see water become more copious in certain places, which will be good for certain areas that maybe up to now have not been able to support the growth of wines and vineyards, but it'll be tough on other areas where their water supplies will be drying up. So lots of change. There'll be climate winners and climate losers, but it's great that we're preserving the wine and the water that we have in order that we can be something for generations further down the line. So I'm looking forward to tasting this one.
Yeah, let's taste. So we can see that it's very citrusy. What do you think?
It has a wonderful nose.
My friends, if you like a wine that it's really vibrant with acidity and it's tons of citrus flavor, and you want to do something good for the environment, then Gran Reserva from Concha y Toro. You will help preserving the watershed, and you'll be drinking a great wine that I'm sure goes great with this salmon.
I pick up a grapefruit
Yes,
taste here
yes.
on the side of the tongue. It's a
And
really lovely wine.
there's tons of grapefruit and really good minerality also.
Mm-hmm. That is tasty. Actually, the most important greenhouse gas is, guess what?
What?
Water. Water is actually the most important greenhouse gas for our planet, but there's so much of it in the air that it regulates itself by raining on us. When there's too much water, we get snow, we get rain, the rain that helps the grapes, of course, episodic. But carbon dioxide can only precipitate out of the atmosphere in one place that we know of. Do you know where that is?
What is?
Think cold, where there are no grapes at all.
Cold, cold, cold.
Antarctica.
Antarctica.
Yeah, at minus 70, carbon dioxide can actually come down like snow, but not enough of it to make a difference, unfortunately. You can probably say more to this, but I know during the Middle Ages, the early 1200s, when the Vikings were moving around and able to do that, the climate was considerably warmer in Europe than it is now, so that there were vineyards in the south of England
Oh, yes.
that were able to produce, I think, drinkable wines, at least. I'm sure the French would think otherwise about this, but they were certainly there, which meant that the climate was hospitable, although very stressed, I'm sure the grapes were, to making wine there. And then it got colder, and there is, I think, not much of a wine industry in the UK anymore.
No, but they drink a lot of wine from Chile, actually. They're the biggest, uh, the country that drinks the most Chilean
I
wine
see.
besides Chile,
Hmm.
which is fascinating if you
Yes.
think about it. They have France right
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
and they drink a lot of Chilean wines.
Yes. Well, there's no accounting for politics. Has climate change created vineyards in places where previously there were not vineyards?
Yes, it is happening. Probably more often that we want to happen, but in Spain, in the area of, on the region of Penedès,
Mhm.
there are wineries that are moving closer to the mountains and higher in altitude
Yes.
to get the cooler climate that they need at night to preserve the acidity and the quality of the fruits.
Mhm.
And now they cannot call their wine cava, their sparkling wine cava, because it's outside of the deal.
Uh-huh. Now I know the nights and the change in temperature are important for the grapes, but so is when they receive their water.
Mm-hmm.
Certain dry periods I think are good to have, and then you need the wet at certain times. Probably the one thing we know for sure about climate change is that we're likely to see more extremes in the amount of precipitation coming down at one time and the gaps between that precipitation. Is that going to be good or bad for grapes, or is it a mixed story?
It is a mixed story. It depends on the region, and there's a lot of dry farming,
Mm-hmm.
and there's wineries that have uh, the technology to know when the vine is stressed and needs a drop of water,
Yes.
and they're that precise.
Mm.
But a lot of the quality regions of the world, they don't allow irrigation, so you have to do dry farming. Global warming might change that,
Mhm.
yes, and the laws will have to be reviewed, but
Yes.
we need to do some steps to make sure that this doesn't evolve so quickly.
Mm-hmm. I agree. One of the places where climate change is likely to be much slower is in New Zealand. And I know New Zealand is really moving forward with a lot of diverse types of wines. They're likely to see a very stable climate, whereas we'll see a lot more warming over the Sahara, certainly over the western United States and other places like that. So if you have wines and grapes in New Zealand, you'll be able to plan for the long run.
And it's such a beautiful place for wine. I've been to New Zealand on to go and taste wines, and they care so much about the environment.
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen a place so green
Wow.
as New Zealand.
Mm-hmm.
So Tom, our next wine, Bonterra Cabernet from California. Bonterra was the pioneer, the first certified organic grapes in our domestic world, and in 2020 Bonterra Winery won the green medal. Climate smart
Climate smart.
wine growing practices. So we have 100% organic Cabernet from California. We can appreciate a lot of cherries.
Mm. It's creamy. Yeah.
Very pleasant, and their philosophy is to keep farming greener. So, what do you think is so important about green farming?
It's about sustainability. we want to be able to continue doing things tomorrow that we're doing today. And that's is really the hard part of climate change, is not altogether the warming or cooling. If people could tell us which it was going to be and where, then we could adjust. But Vinters and even you and I, we make decisions about what we're going to invest in, how we're going to upkeep our house or our property based on past climates. What are the risks that we've seen in the past? If those risks are changing, then we have to change our strategy. And so the key word that we use a lot is sustainability. Can you develop an approach to making wines or just living your life that is going to be robust and sustainable and will allow you to adapt as things change in your environment? And it sounds like that's what they're doing.
Yeah, another fun fact. I have seen pictures. I have not been to the winery, but they have chicken runnings to control the pests.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an organic way to keep the insects away from the vines.
Yes.
Having the chicken eating them.
That
So
makes
that's-
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a very nice wine.
Another thing that I like to mention is that all of these wines are under $20, so they are affordable. People can just enjoy them and feel good about what they are drinking.
Do you see that there are advantages for winemakers like Bonterra that practice smart climate practices? Are consumers drawn more to that sort of wine, all other things being equal, because they want to support a green-based approach?
Here where we live,
Yeah.
our county, Boulder County, it's very green and we're blessed because of that. I have to say that I could say that it's the zip code in the nation that drinks the most Bonterra.
Wow.
Their Chardonnay, people just love it.
Mm-hmm.
I really wanted to showcase something different. That's why we brought the Cabernet,
Mm-hmm.
because it's hard to find a Cabernet in this price point that actually tastes like Cabernet, and you know that it's organic. And
Mm-hmm. Does it cost producers more to make a green vintage?
no, but the certifications are expensive.
Aha.
To be there's a lot of wineries that are green on their practices.
Yes.
They just don't put it on the label because they cannot afford it.
Understood. Interesting. It's nice when the profit margins drive you towards doing the right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, they're definitely doing the right thing.
They are, and they do have a Hispanic winemaker that is in charge of their biodynamics. So it's even
Mhm.
farther step. Like biodynamics sounds like crazy,
Yes.
but they make some delicious good wines.
And I know we care a lot about pets on this program. What happens to the chickens? Do they just get to be free range, or do they end up in somebody's dinner?
That I will have to ask
Yeah.
them. I will have to ask them. But you know, that is crazy. And I will ask because I don't know if I go to that winery and they serve me chicken,
Yeah.
I will be wondering. So Tom, our next wine, La Cappuccina Madego, one of my favorites, certified BIOS, and it has the certification. You see the from the
Yes.
European Union, the Italian government, certified organic by BIOS, and took them many years to get to that point.
But they were one of the first, weren't
Yes.
they, in Italy to do this?
They were actually the very first one to get all the certifications.
Wow.
Back in 1985.
Mm-hmm.
The Tessari family, their siblings,
Mm-hmm.
like the big brother is a winemaker, the one of the sisters takes care of the tasting room. It's family business. Another fun fact about this winery is that you see the chapel on the label.
Yes.
They have this tiny chapel on the property, and it's if it's not the only, it's one of the very few chapels that are family owned and not owned by the Vatican.
Interesting.
But here, it's Bordeaux varietals that grow great. So we have a blend of Carmenere, Cabernet, and Merlot.
Mm-hmm.
The soil there, and we have a geologist here that can tell us a little bit about the soil. He doesn't need to be on camera, he can just talk from far. About the basaltic soil.
Yeah.
It's these black rocks
Mm-hmm.
that I think they absorb the heat during the day
Yes.
and keep the vines a little bit warmer at night when they need to be warm.
Yeah. It radiates back the infrared. Yeah.
Like,
Do we tend to see greener wines being small batches as opposed to larger pressings?
yeah,
Mhm.
in some cases, yes.
Yes.
And here in La Capuchina, I have seen the fermenting tanks. Like you can walk all that in 40 minutes, all the three.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not a huge facility,
Yeah.
but it's lovely. It is one of my favorites. And this red wine from the Veneto region, it's like I say, Cabernet, Merlot, and Carmenere,
Mm-hmm.
and I get the old world funk in the nose. That's how I
Mhm.
call it.
Mm-hmm.
Like you get the fruit, but it's the funkiness.
Yeah, it's a quality of aging here that I feel I can taste. This is well, I don't see the vintage. This must be more modern.
2018.
2018.
Yes.
But it has a feeling as it's much more mature than 2018.
Yeah, and that's the brilliantness of the people at La Capuchina. It's a wine that it's what 4 years old,
Mm-hmm.
but it tastes so mature.
Yes, it does.
And you get the fruit, but you get the acidity. Like it wakes up your palate.
Mm-hmm. It's really wonderful to see that winemakers are thinking about sustainability and the future of our planet, and that they're able to continue to craft really high quality products, even by paying attention to water, paying attention to climate change. I know a lot of people sometimes feel very depressed about climate change and that certain things seem inevitable, but I'd caution that there's a lot of optimism.
Mm-hmm.
The planet has a wonderful way of reacting to things, and I mean, we call her Mother Nature, and I think the planet and climate will find ways to allow us to adapt and survive. But we certainly should, as these winemakers are taking the lead in doing, do every bit we can now to keep that carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and try to prevent a runaway greenhouse effect.
Absolutely. And these are only 3 examples, but there's several wineries and farmers and producers all over the world that they want to make a difference. There's a winery in Chile, Emiliana. Their workers get there in bicycles because they don't want cars contaminating.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of beauty on all of these, and we can only do we do what we want to do, but we should do something for our planet.
Yes, we should.
And drinking green is one thing that we can do that it's very easy to
Hear, hear.
start. Dear friends, if you stay until the end of this show, you will see the 2 cutest lab dogs in Boulder County. And they were so patient and gracious that they're gonna get their treats. Yay, Jetty!
Nice.